ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। वासुदेवेन्द्र योगीन्द्रं नत्वा ज्ञानप्रदं गुरुं मुमुक्षूणां हितार्थाय तत्त्वबोधोऽभिधीयते। Page 25 in our text. ततः सुषुप्ति अवस्था का अहं किमपि न जानामि सुखेन मया निद्रा अनुभूयते सुखमहम् अस्वाप्सम् इति सुषुप्ति अवस्था. Talking about the three states of experience, which are sleep, more sleep, and even more sleep. So, what are the three states? Waking, dream, and deep sleep. Okay. And so, this is talking about the three states of experience, because we started with the physical body, correct? Then we went to the subtle body, and now we are in the Karana Sharira, the causal body. And then we finished that, and then now we are talking about three states of experience, you know. And in all this, and then after that he will go into the Panchakosha discussion. And in all this, it seems that the main thing that one was trying to understand, which is what? What is the main thing? In any Vedanta text, what is the main thing that one is trying to understand?
The truth of oneself.
Atma. So, that question, remember, Atma kaha, what is the Atma? And the definition was a very strange definition. The Atma, the self, is not the physical body, the gross body. It's not the subtle body. It's not the causal body. It's not the five koshas. It's not the three states of experience. It's not the neighbor or the neighbor's dog, you know. And it's not the grass that is growing in your lawn. It's not the, all these things. It's not the five elements. All this we are studying. And this seems like a very strange way to go about a simple question. What is Atma? Supposing I don't know house, and I say, what is house? What is the definition of the house? What do I expect? I expect to be told it's a structure which holds things and people. It's like a, place of refuge from rain and snow and all these other, inclement things in the climate. This is what I'm expected to be told. And the house will have certain rooms for ease of access. It is divided into certain rooms based on the kind of activity that each room, represents. Like the place where we hang out is called living room. And the place where one cooks is called kitchen. Place where one sleeps is called bedroom, etc. This is what, I want to know. But instead, I'm asking a simple question, what is this house? And the answer, I'm being given a huge runaround. What is the runaround? The house is not car, I'm first told. The house is not even the subtle car. The house is not something else. The house is not the five elements. The house is not the neighbor's, garden. The house is not the marketplace. The house is not the airport. Although some small airports looks like as big as someone's house, So you should see the Valdosta airport looks like a rich person's house. Yeah. So, this is how it is. And so, the house is not airport, house is not train station, house is not office, house is not bus station. And this we've been going on for the last 3 days, so much so annoyingly, even we had to have extra classes just to know what this Atma is not. What is the whole point? Why is this, because when I ask a straightforward question, what is a house, I want to know the correct definition. And here I am being told what all it is not. Why? Because there is a purpose. Because when I talk about house, it's other than me, correct? It's something outside of me. And I don't have the tendency to mix up the house with not house. Ah, or with hot house. Yeah. So I don't have the tendency to mix it up at all, because I know that this is something, this I objectify, I don't identify with it, not generally anyway. So even though I may say this belongs to me, I know that this is not me, correct? Yeah. So therefore, the same thing, can it apply to the self? No, because the self is mixed up, horribly so, to the extent of one's own peril. The I is mixed up inextricably almost with the not I. And this mix up is the cause for the head being mixed up. So any mix up in the head, is this is what it is. And then, nowadays they talk a lot about identity theft. This is a very famous thing that everybody says, oh, you have to keep the, what is that number, the 10 numbers you get. Social number, you have to keep it close to the heart, you have to keep the bank account, you have to assimilate the bank account, and you have to, have all the safe deposit box, everything, you have to keep it, everything, and eat the key, and so that nobody nobody knows what is going on, and everybody is just, so that one's identity is not stolen. And when the identity gets stolen, what happens is that people behave like you without being you, and then use your good name to buy up all kinds of things and to engage in activities that actually sends you into jail, and they are going scot free because they are just, working under an assumed name, correct? Yeah. So this identity theft, nowadays we are making a big deal about it. But really, the Veda was the first one to discover the concept of identity theft. How? Because the Veda is the first one that talks about the ignorance is the thief that has stolen away your identity. You have to get it back. The whole life, the human life, is to get back my identity. Yeah. And so, in the name of ignorance, one does all kinds of antics that one is not proud of. Yeah. One rages, one raves, one rants, one runs around confused, one runs around like a mad person, and one says, I'm in the grip of sorrow, another one says, I'm in the grip of delusion, third one says, I'm under illusion, fourth one says, save me, pahimam, pahimam. Pahimam is Sanskrit for save me. Yeah. And then rakshamam, rakshamam, protect me, trahimam, trahimam, protect me in a different, different words. Yeah, because Bhagavan also should be kept interested. So we use different words. Otherwise, if you keep saying the same thing, Bhagavan says, oh, it's the same, it's the same old fellow. Let us not go here, So Pahimam, Rakshamam, Trahimam, this is what keeps one, so confused, is that one doesn't know oneself. Why? Because the original identity, what is this identity? What is the social security number of Atma? Sat Chit Ananda. That is the social security number of Atma. Yeah, that is the number that Atma responds to. That is the number that belongs to Atma. And this has been stolen away by what? By this ignorance. Mataji. What kind of Mataji? Avidya Mataji. Yeah, this Mataji, which is a blessing for Bhagavan. See, the same Mata, that same knowledge and power. And yesterday there was a beautiful question about the serpent. The serpent is this knowledge. The serpent is the power. To the one who wields it, she is a blessing. To the one who, either, looks upon it with contempt or fear, or she is a, terror. Yeah. She is, one who succumbs to her. She she is dangerous. This is what it is. So she represents, in a very interesting way, the serpent represents both total knowledge, power, knowledge, desire, and power. The three wonderful things that makes this whole manifestation tick. To the one who knows, she represents that and she becomes worship worthy. To the one who doesn't know, she is the bane of their existence. This is what it is. Why? Because she also, in the process of creating, what one has to do, you cannot create without a certain falsification. Yeah. You cannot create without a certain division. It's very interesting. This whole thing is so beautiful. Because when you create, there is always some kind of there is a falsehood in the creation, kind of a falsehood. Since we are talking of Bhagavan, it's not really a falsehood. It's not a correct word to use, but I can't think of anything else right now. So this is what why is it there is a falsehood, as it were? Because you see, there is a feeling in the heart. Take a poet, for example, or a painter. So what they put on the paper or the canvas is not exactly what they are feeling. You see, there is already a certain transmutation of that. There's already some kind of a, what's its name? A change that has happened. And that product, which is the change, that change has happened without undergoing any change, that change has happened after having undergone some change in the heart of the poet or the painter. Yeah, this is on the relative level. But when we are talking about a creation, which is an as though creation, there is no falsehood, there is no change undergone. That's the difference. So the difference with the relative level worldly creation, our own creation, is because we are under that time-space matrix. We are trapped in that time-space matrix. So any music that the jiva makes, any painting, any work of art is always this much lacking, compared to what the feeling or the original plan was. Correct? And also, in the process of producing this work of art, there is a sublimation of those feelings of whether pain or gladness or whatever the feeling that was fueling that art. Correct? Mm-hmm. Because the person who was producing is already transformed. This is because one is working in this time-space matrix and one is working under the influence of this serpent power, more about that later, called Maya. This is the thing, because she is the author of all changes within and without. She is knowledge, she is power, and she is desire. All three in one. And she belongs to Ishvara. Belongs to means non-separate from Ishvara. That is what it is. That's why a number of deities in the Hindu, tradition, they have the left half feminine and the right half masculine, to show that the two, the power and the wielder of the power, are one. Yeah. The power cannot be separated from the wielder. And the wielder cannot be separated from the power, because without the power, the wielder is powerless. Correct? So the two are married. That's why all the gods, the representation of the gods in the Hindu pantheon are all married, happily married. Yeah. And we celebrate marriages also. Yeah. In fact, in India, people just, they have an outpouring of devotion where they marry Krishna to Radha. They celebrate the marriage. They actually do the whole wedding ceremony. Everybody comes dressed up in their marriage best, and then the mantras are read, and they have a small Radha going around Krishna, and they do this for real. Yeah. And this is to show, this is so that one never separates in one's consciousness that these two are one. One never should separate that. That's why it is it is not okay, in the Hindu tradition, to walk between a married couple. We never separate that. The two are one. And so this is what that's called papa karma. If we walk in between, you never do that. You never come in between in any way. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that the jiva's creation is full of transformations. The jiva is transformed in the process of creation, and the creation itself is a little lacking, or whatever it is, this falls short of the expressivity that one wanted to imbue the creation, one's own creation with. But when we talk about the creation in terms of the cosmic creation, the manifestation, it is perfect. It is absolute. Why? Because it is out of which space and time have also come. And it is changeless because it is a creation where no change has occurred in the process of creating, and everything is just a manifestation which is non-separate from the creation. It is sustained by the creation, it rises, it is sustained by the author of the creation, it rises from that being, that causeless being, and unto that causeless being it resolves. This is what we call the creation. Why? Because the power, the knowledge, and the desire, ichha shakti, kriya shakti, jnana shakti, these three, the power, knowledge, and the desire, are all what? Are all beautifully and perfectly wielded and perfectly projected. Yeah. And then what? The goal of the human life is to not come under the sway of this projection. This is the goal of the human existence. Because if I come under the sway of this projection, I am swayed. That's all it is. What happens? I take the projection to be more real than what it actually is. It has a certain reality, granted, but that is called vyavaharika, that is a transactional reality. But then I come under its spell, then I take it to be what is finite, I take it to be infinite. What is relative, I take it to be absolute. This is the problem. Yeah. And so the projection itself cannot cause sorrow. The projection is benign. And we know that with certain projections for sure. How do we know that? In the meditation, we say, visualize a river. The river is flowing. I am looking at the river. What is evoked in me when I look at the river? What is evoked in me? An appreciative being, a non-judging being, a being who is joyful, naturally joyful, whether there is river or no river. I don't cry a tear of rivers because I think that the river should be flowing from, west to east rather than east to west or south to north, the opposite way. I don't want that. I am happy with how it is flowing. So that is, the river is also a projection, correct? And then what? Father is also a projection. Same way. Yeah. Can I look at the father and say, here goes this person with all his whatever, the talents, the limitations, the talents and the glories and the limitations all together. This is how it is. And can I have that same appreciation and that non-judging being evoked within me when I think of the Father, when I visualize the Father? Here is where the rub is. Why? What's the difference between the river and the Father? Both end in ER, See, that's why I didn't use mountain. Ah. Tricks of the trade. Tricks of the trade. So what's the difference between father and river? Both end in ER, correct? Yeah. And then there should be no difference. But there is. Why? Because I have bought into this projection. And very selectively. I have bought into this projection with certain people, certain objects, certain situations, and then the rest of the projections I am able to relate to with equanimity. This is madness. But this is the madness that makes, the human life both interesting and frustrating simultaneously. This is the total madness. Because with relation to the Father, there's all kinds of feelings, concerns, fears, frustration, anxiety, expectations that were not met, expectations that are never going to be met, frozen needs that will never be thought out, that will forever remain frozen. And with regard to the river, oh, immediately there is this feeling. Why? Because the river doesn't talk back. The river doesn't act out. The river doesn't promise things that it cannot deliver. It just is, correct? And that is why people like to have pets. Yeah. Because even though everybody at home is angry with you, the dog will come out wagging the tail. Yeah. So this is unconditional love, right? Yeah. Not so much cat, dog. Yeah. So yeah, cat will always show you who is the boss. Yeah, the dog. Everybody is mad at you, but the dog, the lone star of the show, will be wagging the tail. Oh, I'm so happy that you are home. Thump, thump, thump. It will be waiting for you. This is how it is. And so that is why people like to have pets, because we want to surround ourselves more and more with the benign projections, and then somehow keep at bay or pretend that these not so benign projections, the difference is in my mind. See, it's not real. So the projections that affect me, I stay away from somehow. This is what, one tries to do. That's why when one goes to vacation means you want to be surrounded by non-talking projections of Brahman. Yeah. Non-speaking projections. Redwood tree. Yeah. Stands there. Yeah. And even if you tell the redwood tree, I don't know what people see in you, you're okay. It doesn't say anything. Stands there majestic. And you tell a mountain, what? You think you're great? It doesn't need to prove itself. It just stands there. So we seem to like to interact with those projections that are really, not, reminding me or triggering the unconscious, not triggering the pain and the sorrow of the childhood. That is the kind of projections that I want to be surrounded by. I mean, who doesn't? This is normal. But is it possible? No. Because I tell you, even if we live long, in those among those projections which are non-talking, they will also start to speak after a little while. Yeah, yeah. You've seen people who are, marooned in an island for 10 weeks or 12 weeks. They've done experiments, left people in the jungle, and they've made some TV shows also, I hear. Left people in the jungle, right? Yeah, what is that called? Jungle. Lost? That is the name? Lost. Yeah. So lost and then found, I suppose. So after a while they go crazy. Even though there is nobody else there, they go crazy. Why? That clearly shows that the projection has nothing to do with my own state of mind. Projection has nothing to do. Poor projection. Maya, that lovely serpent, is the most maligned. She just is. She just, gives us a lot to see, a lot to interact with. So the projection is benign. The one who comes under the sway of the projection is the one who comes under the. So the Maya, the knowledge power, the serpent has twofold powers, the twofold effects. One is this projection, which I just talked about, which is benign, and the other one is the art of covering. Yeah. Covering what? Covering your own nature from who? From other people? No, from you. Yeah. Covering your own nature from you. So much so that what is good for me, I don't understand. I hijack myself constantly. This is self-sabotage, This is because of the covering. And this is what, my friends, keeps us from even seeking the knowledge sometimes. Confronted with that knowledge, which is the most comforting, and this is what is going to take me out of this covering, so that I can better live with the projections as as the truth of that which is as owning up the social security number, which is, what is my social security number? Satchit Ananda. Yeah. Yeah, Satchitananda. That is the social security number. So instead of owning that up, I come under the sway of the projections, taking the unreal to be real, taking the finite to be infinite, taking the absolute, mistaking the relative for the absolute. This is why I get mixed up in those projections, because wherever there is a sense of I that is trapped, that is because of this twofold power, the avarna, the covering what? My own nature from myself. And I get lost in the projections, and as a result, my nature is covered from me. And this is the covering that we remove through this knowledge. This is why the knowledge is extremely important, because I otherwise go with a cataract in front of the eyes. This is what the Guru Stotram said. There is a cataract, so there is a vision obstruction. Instead of seeing everything as my own projection, which is because my social security number is what? Satchidananda. Instead of seeing it that way, I see myself as an effect rather than a cause. How sad is that? And if I see myself as an effect, trotting behind this status of me being an effect is victimhood, a misplaced sense of agency. So since I am powerless, you see, this is what happens. I mean, you think of the Indian bureaucratic offices. You go to a manager, somebody who's sitting at the desk. The desk is already packed up, even though it's just tea time, 3:30. Why is this like this? Every day it's like this. And 3:30 you go there. What time office closes? 5. 5. But then why is the desk packed up at 3:30? Because of the colonial legacy. Yeah. Why? Because the what's that? The officials were called clerks. It's a British term. And it's a clerical work, this small managerial office works. And beyond that, nobody could get a promotion. You see, this was because that the other ranks had to be filled with Britishers from not so great Britain. This was the rule. This was the rule. And so therefore what? So therefore the motivation to excel was not there. And also after a while they became tenured in their positions, but then they would not get any more ahead. So why would you not pack up your bags at 3:30? Because where else is there to go? There is no other place to go. So this is why even now that colonial legacy continues. And then and then that was one part of the whole clerical thing I wanted to talk about. The second part is this, that you go ask them, can you please do this? And then, the one who is the most powerless wants to strut the power, whatever power they have, they want to stretch it to the maximum and put you in its grip. Yeah. Why? Because it's a sense of powerlessness projected outward. Yeah. And this is what the human being who doesn't know this knowledge does. Either one, buries oneself under many blankets. I am a victim. I'm not coming out from under the cover, pun intended. Or one struts around trying to, grab a few crumbs of power sitting at the table and then struts around saying, I am the best, east or west. Both of those ends of the continuum. One end of the continuum is bhokta, the other end of the continuum is karta. I am karta or I am bhokta. I am the, victim of all kinds of situations, or I am the doer and therefore I'm stressed out, running around like a chickenless head, and then this is what the situation is. So the mix-up is so deep, so severe, that the teacher here, instead of directly answering the question, what is this Atma, goes into great extent and great levels to show how this mix-up is with the various projections that are this body, this mind, this thing, and the 3 states of experience, etc., and the 5 koshas, so that in and through this delineation, I get a sense of self. I am closer to spelling my own social security, that is the ultimate security, individual and social, Satchidananda, that is my nature. So I'm closer to seeing my nature when I know what I am not. This is what has to be understood. So that's why the sleep state is discussed in great detail. Sushupti avastha ka, the question was asked on page 25, and the answer is given, that which during the Sushupti means what is the state of sleep. The state of sleep is that where I say, I don't know anything. Aham kimapi na janami. I don't know anything. When? In class. Why? Because I was in Sushupti. Yeah. So, so I don't know anything. Why? Why don't you know anything? Sukhena maya. Nidra anubhuyate iti. Because by me, sleep was experienced. Yeah, bhuyate. First, the not passive voice. Maya, by me, sukhena, with happiness, nidra, sleep, anubhuyate, is experienced. Ha, bhu plus ya plus te, bhuyate, you know. So sukhena maya anubhuyate. So the by me is experienced very sweetly, this state of sleep. And what is this state of sleep? What is the first thing we know about sleep? I don't know anything. Yeah, you can take the body of the sleeper and transfer it somewhere else, Still the person doesn't know. When you wake up, you say, where am I? You start asking fundamental spiritual questions. What for I'm here? Where am I? How did I get here? So the sleep is that which is characterized by what? By not knowing anything. Yeah. So therefore, you can never answer the question truthfully and say, what is that question? Are you asleep? Because if you say yes, that means no, right? Yeah, because if you say yes, I am asleep, that means you're saying no, I'm not asleep. So when you don't say anything, that means you're asleep, right? So this is how it is. So iti sushupti avastha. So this I do not know. And then what is this sushupti avastha? This state of sleep closely aligned with what? With the causal body. Because what is the causal body? What is the causal body characterized by? What is sleep characterized by? Ignorance. So the two have a lovely marriage over here, and this is what is talked about here. Karana Sharira, Abhimani, Atma, Prajnah, Iti, Uchyate. Yeah. So Karana Sharira Abhimani. So the I sense here, that is identified with the causal body in the form of the sleeper here is called what? Prajna. So now we have three terms. For that Atma, which is as though identified with a waker, is called Vishwa. For the I notion, the I sense that is identified with the dreamer is called Taijasa. The I sense identified with the sleeper is called Prajna. So the dreamer corresponds to the subtle body and the sleep state corresponds to the causal body. Further, here we go. Panchakoshaha. Ke. Yeah, okay. So, Annamayah, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, Cha iti. Yeah. So, what are the five koshas? Now, how the student becomes so knowledgeable? How does the student, he or she, how do they know all this? Avasthatraya, they're asking all these correct Vedantic questions. What are the five koshas? What are the three states? How? How do they know suddenly? They just came yesterday. And they have been sitting at the feet of the teacher recently. So, how do they know all this terminology? Because the teacher said all these things in the question. That the Atma is different from this. So the student is merely reproducing what the teacher said, saying, I don't understand what these five koshas are, you know. And the teacher lists the kosha means that which covers. So we are talking of the covering power of Maya. And what does she cover? She covers my understanding of myself through five very beautiful, mechanisms or loci where I end up making mistakes. The first one is called Annamaya, taking the body to be as good as I. Then the next one is called Pranamaya, taking the life force to be as good as I. Then the third one is called Manomaya, taking all the thought formations to be as good as I. Then the fourth one is called what? Vijnanamaya, taking all the decision making faculties and the doership as I. And the last one is called Anandamaya. Anandamaya means what? Taking the experiencer to be I. So the I notion is trapped in these five identifications. And don't think that they are linear and they happen one by one. First I have Annamaya, then I'm having Pranamaya attack. Now next it will be next month, Manomaya's turn. Oh my God, what am I going to do? No, it's all simultaneous, which is what makes it most interesting and most frustrating. Most interesting if you are on this, if you are ready to learn about this, and most frustrating if one is not. Yeah, because all five are unfolding simultaneously. At the same time, one is trapped in all these five misidentifications. And the misidentifications have to be repeatedly questioned, inquired into, and removed. And we cannot do them simultaneously. So we have to start somewhere. So we go from the grossest to the subtlest. Okay? Yeah, that's all it is. It's not that you are experiencing it one by one. Because somebody asked this question, when I will experience pure pranamaya, so you cannot. Yeah, it's all happening at the same time. Yeah. So therefore, so this is the five places within this body mind sense complex where the I is trapped and mistaken for those particular forms, functions, and identities. And then these are going to be looked at in detail, not in so much detail as our Taittiriya classes, but you see today nobody is missing the Taittiriya. We are having Taittiriya. Yeah. अन्नमयः कः अन्नरसेनैव भूत्वा अन्नरसेनैव वृद्धिं प्राप्य अन्नरूप पृथिव्यां यत् विलीयते तत् अन्नमयकोशः स्थूलशरीरम्. Yeah, so what is Annamaya asked by the student? Maya means a modification. Anna means food. So what is this food modification? What is this modified form of food? And the answer that is given is that which is born out of the essence of food. And then that which depends upon the food for its nourishment. Food means the modified form of food for its nourishment. And that which goes back to the world of food, to the earth, which again sustains the food, is that is called Annamaya. That is a modification of food. And that is another, that is a kosha, that is a layer of covering above, covers what? Doesn't cover the Atma, covers my knowledge of the Atma. Nothing can cover the Atma, okay? Yeah, Atma is always uncovered. So what is covered is my own understanding. So this is what covers my understanding. And what is it called? Sthula Shariram, this physical body. Yeah, the gross body. So the gross body, which is identified with the I, and where I make a mistake, is called, Annamaya. And so that is what is pointed out. Further going, Pranamaya कः प्राणाद्याः पञ्चवायवः वागीन्द्रिय वागादि Indriya Panchakam Pranamaya Koshaha. Yeah. So then he asks, the student, he or she asks, what is Pranamaya? Prana Adyaha. So the 5 pranas, which are what? Prana, life force, the respiration. Apana, the force that overrides or controls elimination. Udana, that which controls the lifespan. Samana, that which controls the digestive function. And Vyana, that which controls the circulatory functions. These are the 5 pranas, which are what? Modification of the airs, right? Air element, the modified air elements. And then along with the, Vagadi Indriya Panchakam. So along with the, what's its name? The organs of action. So the 5 airs that causes things to move also causes all these functions within the body. And then here he says something new that is not discussed in detail by the Taittiriya. What is that? That the 5, that the 5 organs of actions are controlled by pranamaya. Speech, etc. are controlled by pranamaya. So the pranamaya is hitched or connected with the 5 organs of actions, and we already saw the organs of action. So they are all connected to the pranamaya kosha, and it becomes a kosha or a covering which doesn't allow me to see the glory and the truth of myself, because I become a beggar with relation to the prana, the respiratory function, because I say without air I cannot live. Yeah, and in the first instance, without bread I cannot live, without air I cannot live. So I feel the one who is independent of everything, the self-sustaining Atma, becomes a beggar, when it is attached or associated with the physical body, and when it feels dependent upon the prana for its survival. So one becomes, instead of seeing the one who is the author of prana, seeing myself as the author of prana, what happens? I become subject to the prana. So if the prana is disturbed, what do I say? I am disturbed. Yeah. So if the breathing is disturbed, I say I am disturbed. So if anything is wrong with the physical body, I say I am in pain. I am, fat. I am thin. I am, tall. I am short. So the identification with the physical body, the gross body, and the pranamaya identification is with one aspect of the subtle body. Correct? The subtle body. So in here earlier we talked about, and this text goes very fast at some point, so therefore it's important to recall what was said earlier. So in talking about the subtle body and the physical body, some wonderful things were said. What is the physical body? The physical body is just a bhoga ayatanam. You know what is ayatanam? A vehicle for experiencing sukha dukkha, happiness and sorrow. A vehicle of experience. It's like a car. That's all. It's like a house in which you stay. That's all it is. It's like a house. Today the sun is shining on the house. Tomorrow it may have a snowstorm. So coming from the other side. So that is how the house is just there, and it is experiencing all the various kinds of weathers. And so the body also is a structure, a vehicle to experience various weathers in the form of happiness, sorrow, emotions, various emotions. It's a counter for experience. It's a vehicle for experience. And what was the subtle body? If the physical gross body was a vehicle for experience, the subtle body is a means for the experience. Correct? Bhoga sadhanam. So here also you see the two are very much connected here. So the pranamaya kosha is just a bhoga sadhanam, that it's a means for experience, and I think of it as the truth of I. And so any disturbance, in any of the organs in the body, immediately one gets agitated. Why? Because, oh, I have to go to the hospital, I am in peril. So this is what one has to learn here, and that is why this is being talked about in such great detail. मनोमयः
मनोमयः
कः
कः
मनश्च
मनश्च
ज्ञानेन्द्रिय
ज्ञानेन्द्रिय
पञ्चकम्
पञ्चकं
मिलित्वा
मिलित्वा
यो भवति
यो भवति
सः
सः
मनोमयः
मनोमयः
कोशः.
कोशः.
Yeah, the next one is, what is manomaya? What is this modification of the mind? Maya means modification. So what is this area of error? What is this locus of error called manomaya, which is the modification of the mind? So what is that? The manomaya comprises the mind and the five sense organs. This is nice to remember. So the combination of the five sense organs, which are what? Touch, sense of touch, hearing, yeah, taste, smell, and sight, along with the mind, form the manomaya trap. Yeah, the place where I think, where I forget myself and become enraptured with the workings of the senses and the mind. You see, the senses and the mind go together, and the organs of action and prana go together. Both belong to the subtle body. All these three are subtle. Other than Annamaya, other four are all coming in the subtle realm, etc. So this trap together, the mind and the sense organs, they have their own show. All the time they have a show. And what is the show? The sense organs see something, correct? And what does the mind do? The mind is quick to interpret. Yeah. The sense organs just report. There is a beautiful flower growing. And what does the mind say? How come it's not mine yet? Right? When is it going to become mine? And so the mind and the sense organs together form a little pact. What is the pact? How to give Atma, how to continue to give Atma amnesia, Atmanesia. Yeah, how to give it Atmanesia means it forgets its own self. So, how to continue this rigmarole? So, the senses are all outwardly focused and the mind runs after the senses. And each thing that one sees, there is a sense of minus and meanness. And then the poor Atma just sits and waits for the person to shed this ignorance. Right? So, this is what is called Manomaya. Then Vijnanamaya.
विज्ञानमयः
कः
कः
बुद्धिः
बुद्धिः
ज्ञानेन्द्रिय
ज्ञानेन्द्रिय
पञ्चकं
पञ्चकं
मिलित्वा
मिलित्वा
यो भवति
यो भवति
स विज्ञानमयः
स विज्ञानमयः
कोशः.
कोशः.
Now, what is this thing called Vijnanamaya? The Vijnanamaya trap. The trap means what? A trap is a place where I get stuck. Correct? Yeah. That's all. Simple. They do this unfortunately for birds and all. They will spread one net. Over that, they'll spread some dried leaves and some forest floor, wet dried leaves and some sod they will put, and then they will sprinkle the whole thing with bird seed. And the net is controlled with a string on the other side. And one bird comes and starts to eat, and pretty soon a whole flock comes, and then the hunter will pull the hunter or the poacher, whoever it is, pull the string, and all of them are bagged in this net. And then they are sent to exotic places for price, or they are, eaten. Whatever they do with these birds, I don't know, but they poach, they kill, they hunt. And so similarly, this Vijnanamaya trap is like that. Yeah. Who wants accolades? That is the first bird seed. Yeah. This bird brained jiva goes after this seed. Who wants accolades? Me. Who wants credit? Me. Munch, 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 munch. Who is the doer? Me. So, do you want to do a lot in this life and get a lot of different wonderful, things? Do you want to achieve the highest thing? Yes, me. Another bird seed. Who wants to do this? And then what? Pretty soon, because one is enmeshed in the doing, The net pulls itself. Yeah, Mother Maya pulls the net. And then one is trapped in this sense of doership. That is the net. The net is the sense of doership. What one thinks one's net worth is, that is the net. That is really the net. What other net is there? You know? And so this is what it is. So the bird brain jiva walks into this trap repeatedly each time he or she identifies with a sense of worship. Yeah, this is the problem. So, and what comprises the Vijnanamaya? The Vijnanamaya is the Buddhi. See, I told you the mind is divided into four faculties. The indecisive faculty called Manaha, the emoting faculty called Chitta, the Buddhi, the decisive intellect, the intellect or the decisive faculty, and finally the I sense that says all these three are I and everything is I. So this is the fourfold, what is its name? The division according to the tradition we have to remember. And so here the buddhi, the decisive faculty, along with the five sense organs, who own up every mistake and who own up the mistaken person. I am an idiot, the one who says, and I am the one who's everything, the one who says, that is the one who is called Vijnanamaya. That is that is what forms the Vijnanamaya net. This is what it is. Then Anandamaya Kaha. Something is missing. Oh yeah. Evameva कारणशरीर भूत अविद्या अविद्यास्थ मलिनसत्वं प्रियादि वृत्तिसहितं सत् आनन्दमयः कोशः एतत् कोशपञ्चकम्. Yeah, so now what is Anandamaya? You see, this is a very interesting definition. The other two were the Annamaya is connected to the physical body, correct? And Pranamaya, Manomaya, and Vijnanamaya are connected to the subtle body. And the Anandamaya is connected to the causal body. This is what he says. Why? Because the Anandamaya is comprises the ignorance along with gradations of happiness that one experiences. Listen carefully. At the sight of something lovable, A, one gradation of happiness, and then at the obtaining of something lovable, B, and the third one at the consuming or experiencing something lovable, 3. These 3 grades of happiness everybody has. Ishtavastu darshanam, number 1. Ishtavastu prapanam, number 2. Ishtavastu vastunaha anubhutihi, number 3. So the first gradation of happiness, what we call gradations of happiness, is called priya. I look at something that delights me. So what do? I smile, I show my 32 teeth. Yeah, because I'm happy. And then, but that happiness is not enough, correct? Yeah, I have to get it because again the world is divided into me and not me. So the not me has to become me for this happiness to be even more pulakita, flowering. So then what happens? Then I want that at any cost. So then I get it, and then when I get it, the level of happiness goes up several volumes, correct? Yeah, it becomes louder. And this at this stage is ishtavastu prapanam, gaining something desirable. It is called what? Moda. Yeah. And then what? I give a hug. Let's say it's a puppy. First I see the puppy, and then I go adopt the puppy, and then I give the puppy a hug. Now it is truly mine, correct? And then what happens? Then I take the puppy home, and I'm really glad. Why? Because it has become mine. The last one, the gaining of this so-called object of happiness, is called pramoda. So the whole world is mad after this Priya, Moda, Pramoda. This is what we keep wanting, Pramoda, all the time. But you see, it's not always linear. What is Pramoda can become Priya. Why? Because the first act, you know, the puppy does is bless the house, with what? With holy water. Yeah. So, because it's small, it hasn't been trained. That's why it says it's not house broken. Yeah. So, first act it does is what? It blesses the house, not once but repeatedly. It blesses the house whenever it's anxious. It blesses the house whenever it's nervous. It blesses the house whenever it's happy. So, what do we do with this thing? So, suddenly the Pramoda has become what? Priya, because then I think, okay, something drastic has to be done now. I have to go shopping for washcloths. I have to, I have to, what is that? Puppy proof the house. I have to do all these things. I have to get a little container for this fellow. Then I'm thinking, okay, all these expenses. I had not thought of all these. So then the Pramoda has become Priya again, correct? Week two, Then I have to go shoe shopping. Why? Because, yeah, it's getting new teeth, it's getting molars, and then of course it wants to chew something. Yeah, and it loves me so much, and it loves my shoes so much that all the shoes are gone, correct? So you see how that then it becomes an object of irritation. Then it bites a friend. Then it becomes the same thing that was an object of love becomes very quickly an object of irritation. So it's not linear that once you reach Pramoda you are there. No, it all depends on the day and the time and and the mood and this and that. And this Priya, Moda, Pramoda constantly keeps changing. Is Pramoda the ultimate? No, because it keeps getting declined. It is not the ultimate because it also is subject to change. And so the modern Vedantins don't know what to do with this. The modern Vedantins had to somehow search into the vocabulary bin and come up with one more word. What is that? Bliss. That it's always be written with capital B. Notice I never use the word except here to say I never use it. Yeah. What is this bliss? This bliss is what is this? Bliss is something other than Priya, Moda, Pramoda. Then why do I need another? Then it becomes another experience. And this whole Anandamaya trap is that what you experience is not that thing that you experience is not you. That is what it is. You are that. The self is not an event to be experienced called bliss. When I experience the self, I'll have bliss. You are experiencing the self all the time. Even when you're not having bliss, the so called bliss, you are experiencing the self. You are experiencing the self even when you're having a difficult day. You are experiencing the self when you're saying, I want a self experience. You are experiencing that is itself a self experience. This, why don't you understand? I don't understand. That I don't understand. If there is one thing I don't understand, it is why people don't understand this. This is one place. This Anandamaya is a huge trap. It's the subtle net. Yeah. Fishy net, really. And why? Because I make the mistake of thinking that this Atma, which is the source of all happiness, is one more thing to be experienced. And I'm waiting for it, like a bird with a beak open, singing to Bhagavan, cheep, cheep, please give me that bliss. It's not some one more experience to have. It is the content of all the experiences. It's the truth of the experiencer who does not need another experience to make him or her limitless. Because one is already limitless. Every experience is there, it shows that limitlessness. The one who is invariable in all the experiences. The I that obtains in and through all the experiences is free of that which is experienced. So this Priya, Moda, Pramoda, these gradations of happiness is what? Is a product of ignorance. That's why it's called Malina Sattva. It is a sattva, all right, because it is Ananda has sattva in it. It's the motive is good enough. The motivation is how to be happy. That is the motivation. But it is Malina Sattva. It is colored with the impurity of ignorance. Yeah. It is colored with the impurity of ignorance. And what is this impurity? Not knowing that I am what I seek. So I, you know, settle for the settle for some kind of an object to make me happy without knowing the subject. This is the greatest ajnanam. This is the greatest travesty of all. The subject is always the source of happiness. So even if you say my life is in this puppy because I like this kitty or this puppy, the puppy actually is not making you happy. I told you the same puppy can make you annoyed. It's not the puppy that is making you happy. It's like that story of the dog and the bone, you know. The dog finds a dry bone and sits down on a nice winter afternoon in the sun to enjoy it. And is, you know, eating the bone. And then what? The rough bone crushes the gums of the dog and causes them to bleed. And the dog slurps the blood and says, "What a juicy bone I have today." Where is the juice coming from, the dog or the bone? It's coming from the dog. So, to anything that I enjoy that is outside of this I is because the self is already lovable. The self is already happy. The self is already infinite. So, that enjoyment is just reflected in the object outside, where the subject is itself the one that is reflected in the object. So therefore, if I make the mistake saying that the juice is coming out, the essence of happiness and the various gradations are coming out from something other than myself, then I make the mistake of falling into the Anandamaya trap, bada trap, big trap. And the Anandamaya is connected with the misidentification of myself as an experiencer, thinking that the self is one more thing needing to be experienced. And this is the height of ignorance. So, this is what is the Etat Pancha Koshakam, Kosha Panchakam. This is the 5 koshas. Next. Madiyam Shariram.
Madiyam Shariram.
Madiyaha Pranaha.
Madiyaha Pranaha.
Madiyam Manaha.
Madiyam Manaha.
Cha.
Cha.
Madiya Buddhihi.
Madiya Buddhihi.
Madiyam Ajnanam.
Madiyam Ajnanam.
Iti
Iti
Svenaiva
Svenaiva
Jnayate
Jnayate
Tat
Tat
Yatha
Yatha
Madiyatvena Jnatam
Madiyatvena Jnatam
Khataka
Kataka
Kundala
Kundala
Grihadikam
Grihadikam
Swasmat
Swasmat
Bhinnam
Bhinnam
Tatha
Tatha
Panchakoshadikam
Panchakoshadikam
Madiyatvena
Madiyatvena
Jnatam
Jnatam
Atma
Atma
na bhavati.
Na Bhavati.
Yeah. So this big sentence, the main sentence is Panchakoshaha Atma na bhavati. The 5 koshas cannot become the Atma. Because why? They are they are loci of error. This is a place where I mistake myself. They cannot become the Atma. Why? Just as like your earrings, your house, etc., cannot become you. Do you say me house? No. Do you say me earring? No. Do you say me necklace? No. What do you say? My necklace, my house, my earring. So there is the sense of minus, correct? So with the body, what do you say? Do you say me body? No. Do you say me prana? No, my prana. You know. So therefore, anything that is known with a sense of my cannot become I. It just shows a relationship of belonging. It shows a relationship of belonging. It's not that it's an identification. So when I say my earring, my house, my pen, my paper, my book, I am showing a relationship of possessive relationship, correct? I am separate from these objects which belong to me, right? Yeah. So here also, when I say my body, my prana, my mind, My sense of doership, my sense of experiencership. What am I saying? All these belong to me. They cannot be me. More about that we'll see in the next class. Tomorrow we will meet again for this class, and tomorrow we will meet at 10 o'clock. We will have meditation. We will have little bit of this class and little bit of Guru Stotra. Both of them we will have. First we will have meditation, then we will have Guru Stotram, and then the latter half we will have a little bit of Tattvabodha. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
They define Anamaya, Anandamaya as a sheet of happiness.
It's wrong.
Yeah, what should I have there?
Experiencer. The covering that leads me to identify as an experiencer. Experiencership. The doership is Vijnanamaya.
I'm not sure about this one. When talking about the three states, we talked about them as experience states. And what I remember, in the very first few times of listening to you was experience. As a trap to identify with that. And Barclay asked a question about what are the exceptions. But he didn't ask that question. He was asking about what about lucid dreaming? And you were saying, well, that's not the rule. That's the exception. And what other kinds of exceptions are there? And of those exceptions, they're not spoken to. For what reason?
Exceptions to what?
The three states. Talking about the three states, it's a simplification.
The general rule. See, really speaking, these are all aids.
Yeah.
Aids. Models and aids. Means, as until I learn to walk, I need some crutches, So these are all crutches. And some crutches I have to hold on to. And some crutches I have to let go. Some are negative crutches. Means these are the things I have to let go of in order to see. Because everything is so mixed up that certain things have to be delineated. So the three states of experience is not you. We have to say that, correct? So we have to say that, because otherwise I will say I am the waker. And then, otherwise I will say I am the sleeper. Otherwise I will say I am the one who is dreaming. And then people get caught up in that. Everybody gets caught up in that. So you have to say that. And for the one who knows, there is no fourth state. What we are trying to see is that the truth of all these experience, we are looking at the content of the experience as I. The experience itself comes and goes. So what goes and comes is not I. The content and the truth of the experience alone is I. So this I is the one who is the cognizer of the waking and the dream and the deep sleep state. And that's why I said lucid dreaming is an exception, because the I is awake, and not just awake, but in a place of knowing. In a place of knowing. So that knowing I manifests as the waker. This is what I have to know. The same knowing I manifests as the dreamer. The same knowing I manifests as the sleeper. Just as an actor who is in one film a hero, and in another film playing a villain, and the third film playing a cameo role. It's the same person. But in one he's got a beard and, horrible looking, scary looking fellow, and in the other one he looks very, well groomed and heroic, and in the third one he puts another, grey wig and becomes some kind of a, elderly character actor. So this is what I have to know.
Is a way of describing. It's a power within the model of Mitya, of an explanation.
Yes, it's, you see, when I say my subtle body, correct, which is the prana. So at the individual level, my subtle body and also the motivation for action. Motivation means the hands and the legs and the power behind them to act and all these things become the subtle body for me, And so at the collective level, the subtle body for Ishvara is Hiranyagarbha. And so there it's the creative potential, it's the moving potential, it's that which makes things move, that which makes things blossom, create, whatever it is. All this is within Mithya alone, because this creation is a manifest universe. We are having to, and the manifest universe is Mithya, doesn't mean false, means it is one with the Satyam, one with the truth. It is non-separate from the truth, but it is a projection of the truth, and as though projection, I have to add. So therefore, we have to have certain ways of looking at it. It's just to admire the beauty of it, number one, and also to see the links between the individual and the collective, so that I am always with the whole. This is again a way for the jiva who is shedding the ignorance to feel connected with the whole and to know that one is not this alienated, you know, messy person that one thought one was. One is always connected. Yeah.
But the Atma has no movement, just is.
Just is. Just is.
And the word manifest, I realize it's applied so often that I'm unsure. It just means
Like your dream. It's an effortless projection, a manifestation. You don't, yeah, a manifestation.
so everything that my senses, this is
Yeah. Manifest. That which is manifest means it is available for transaction, and unmanifest means it is no longer available for transaction.
And if it's manifest, it is mithya.
If it is anything that is manifest is mithya, but then you cannot conclude that the unmanifest is true. Yeah, unmanifest also, we will see this in the Bhagavad Gita on Tuesday. Unmanifest, that which is not coming under the duality of manifest unmanifest, is what we are talking about. That which just is. It has no pressure to manifest, it has no pressure to demanifest. It just is. Because that is never goes away. It always just is.
And
Sat.
part of that is we. Part of that is mithya.
No part of the is mithya. When the is has a projection, a so-called projection, that is mithya. The projective power of the is mithya, the projection itself is mithya, and that which sustains the projection is mithya. It goes back to the is, the going back is also mithya. The is unaffected by the projection, just like you are unaffected by your dream. Keep the dream example here. It's very, very pertinent, because your dream is manifest effortlessly. You don't have to think, what am I going to dream? How am I going to do this? How am I going to sustain this big, complicated dream? It is done on its own. And then it goes back to you. And the dream cannot live without you. It's mithya. You are satyam in relation to the dream. You are sat, dream is mithya. Similarly, the projection is mithya. Atma, Brahman, Ishvara, Sat.
See if I got this right. So the Atma, I can't experience myself as Atma. That's not possible.
Um,
That's something I shouldn't strive for.
you are experiencing yourself already.
Right.
When you talk to me, you are experiencing yourself. When you are sleeping, you are experiencing yourself. When you are dreaming, you are experiencing yourself. When you eat, drink, play, laugh, talk, scream, you are experiencing yourself. Every minute, you are experiencing yourself. Every second, you are experiencing yourself. That which is never possible to not experience is Atma. But you cannot experience yourself as an object, because if you experience yourself as you experience a piece of music or a pottery or something, then that is a subject object duality, correct? And then when the subject appreciates the object, the infinite subject is appreciating a finite object. Okay? So you cannot experience yourself as an object, because you are not an object. If you were an object, then what would happen? You would become finite, limitless. Now, that being said, every object that you experience is non separate from you. That pot is just a projection of you alone, ultimately. Yeah, you are not the pot, pot resolves in you, pot comes to light because of you. So, in and through the finite, the infinite shines. If we know, and if we don't know, in and through the infinite, the finite shines.
worst, and I have, a really uncomfortable experience where it appears as though someone outside of me is using me for an altar of surrender and dumping all their stuff on me. And
Mm-hmm.
that happens over and over again. So then I start to go, there's got to be something wrong with me if that keeps happening over and over
Yeah.
again. And so I just want to get out of that trap because I'm not enjoying that.
Of course. You are not in the trap. Yeah. You are Satchidananda Atma. You are Sat Chit Ananda. And that is what one has to know. And the more one exposes oneself to the knowledge, the clearer it becomes. It restores the sanity immediately, really. And number one. Number two, the healthy boundaries are very important in the process of this knowledge. That is what keeps one sane. Yeah. So some people may expect things of you, and that's their privilege. You know, you don't have to succumb to those expectations. That is your privilege. Ah, that is your privilege. You may, may not. You may think about it. It's okay. So if because people expect some things, I am coming under the spell of feeling like I have to fulfill the expectations. It's not the other person's problem. It's my own issue that has to be resolved. Because everybody will expect. You know, you can just be walking on the street, people expect you to walk on certain sides and do certain things. You know, even strangers have expectations. But it is up to you to see and to discern which expectations should be fulfilled and which should not. And of course, those expectations which what's that which increase the dysfunctionality of the relationship must not be fulfilled, definitely. Yeah. So one strives for, at least on the level of the transactional reality, to have healthy, sensible, common sense. You know, nobody needs to have a definition of what a healthy relationship is. Everybody knows, we know it. So we try for that. So they can have expectations. The loved ones will have expectations. That's why they are called loved ones. Yeah. But we need not fulfill each and every one. And we have to be strong. One has to be strong to take the, what, having healthy boundaries is one thing, but also have the boundaries to not be affected by whatever is thrown at one when those expectations are supposedly unfulfilled.